Hi everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good afternoon to everyone.
Salam, sir.
Salam, good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you. How are you guys today? So far so good?
Good, sir. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, great. Okay, great. And how your Hari Raya celebration? Everything was good?
Not so good, sir.
Not so good. Why? What happened?
Got a lot of assignment.
Yeah? A lot of
I have a lot
assignment.
of assignment.
For myself, I already given already. Okay, during the first week, so it's up to you to finish it early or so on. Okay, it's okay. That's normal during the study. So please, what we call it, do your homework, your assignments. Okay, based on your what we call it, the timelines and so on. And one before I forgot. Okay, this coming Friday, you must to submit another submission. Am I right? Another assignment, right? 13th of May, this coming Friday. Am I right, guys?
Yes.
So don't forget.
Yes.
Okay, don't forget. So please email to me before 5 p.m. Yeah, right. I will check the times. What we call it, time submission through my email address later on. Okay, so today I would like to share with you guys for the two chapters, the chapter 6 and chapter 7. This is because next week on 18 until 20 I have a course in UDKL MFI, so we don't have a class for next week during 19 because that course starting from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. something like that in UniKL at UniKL MFI by me. So we don't have a class for next week. So today I would like to share with you guys for the two chapters, chapter 6 and chapter 7. So and then another three chapters we try to finish on 26 and the final or the last week, okay, on week 15. Okay, and then during that time, inshallah, try my best to share as soon as possible your what we call it, your midterm exam results, and then your assignment result. Okay, I try my best. Okay, so if you look at from this slide, chapter 6, international performance management. So this is the title for the first chapter for today, chapter 6. This is about performance management, or other words is KPI, or key performance index. Okay, some of the what we call it organization, they prefer to use performance management. So this one we just under the HR we look at in terms of the international or worldwide or global performance management, especially if you're working with the MNC or MNE company. So we as HR we must know how to what we call it to set up, okay, the KPI. Even sometimes in the home country and then host country not use the same setup based on the KPI. It depends. Okay, so right now we try to learn about this one, and in this chapter we also have the, as usual, we have the vocabulary or terms under the international performance management, and then the next one we have the objectives. And for your information, for the objectives for this chapter we have 5 objectives, and then the next one we have the introduction. The next we have the multinational performance management. This is for the worldwide, and then control and performance management of international employees. This is for the expatriate, yeah? And the performance appraisal for international employees, also for the expatriate. So we're going to learn all this one in this chapter for chapter 6. All right, so we start with the vocabulary. If you look at from here, we have the performance management, performance appraisal. Okay, this is other words is KPI or key performance index. We're going to learn about this one more details after this. And then foreign subsidiary, bureaucratic control system, relative comparative data. Okay, this is about the data for the home country and host country or the subsidiary country based on the data. Okay, either our workers or our staff perform or not perform. And then expatriate, okay, under the expatriate we have the PCN or parent country nationals, TCN third country national, and then HCN host country national on assignments to headquarters, and also expatriate for the international employee. Okay, they have two categories here. And then compensation package remuneration. Okay, this is based on the expatriate, how they can perform based on the compensation package we offered for them, and also for the remuneration. Okay, and then tasks. Okay, in terms of the tasks for the CEO, they have a different task. And then for the structure reproducer, they have a different task. And then troubleshooter also, they have their own task. And then operative, they have other tasks. They have a different in terms of the tasks. And then types of assignments, they have technical, developmental, strategic, and then functional. So later on, we look at in terms of the percentage, okay, for the types of the assignments. And then role clarity, role expectation, and then going native, merit-based, intellectual capital, competency-based, and then collective bargaining. Okay, this is for how we can collect for the in terms of the certain issue, okay, from the workers, and so also how they can collect in terms of this one, and then they can raise up the issue to the top management. That's we call it for the collective bargaining. Yeah, and then the next one is virtual assignee. Virtual is by using the website or internet, something like that, how they can assign, how they can give the marks for the KPI or performance management, especially during the pandemic. Okay, during the pandemic, we can't go to the different country because of the what we call it, COVID-19 issue. So normally the organization prefer to use the virtual assignee. Okay, and then hard goals, soft goals, contextual goals. And then the next one, we have 360-degree feedback process. Do you know what that's meant, 360-degree feedback process? You learned this one in this international, in principle of management subject, 360-degree feedback process. Do you know about this one? This term?
Sir, I heard about it when
Yeah.
you get feedback from all the other stakeholders. I think this is meant by 360-degree feedback.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So all the person who have a relation to
With the
them.
staff. Okay, correctly. Thank you, Anika. You learned in this one in what subject? Is it in principle of management or management subject?
I learned this in Germany at my German university.
I see.
In
In which subject? Mm.
Oh, I don't really know which subject it was, but I remember this.
Okay, I believe for the
Yeah.
management subject. Okay, because you
Yeah,
learned this one
yeah.
more basic for the management subject. Exactly, correctly, Anika. Thank you so much. Yes, 360-degree feedback, something like, for example, myself as a manager, I'm trying to do something like performance management for my staff. Okay, one staff. Okay, maybe the name is Ahmad, for example. So I try to get the feedback from the audience, okay, from the 360-degree, okay, their colleague, okay, their maybe their boss, okay, maybe their manager, something like that, or maybe their what we call it, their subordinate, something like that. So I try to get the feedback from their 360-degree feedback, and then after that I give a mark for performance management. That's we call it for the 360-degree feedback process. Yeah, thank you. And then communication medium, and then the last one is cultural applicability. So this is about the culture, how they can applicable for this kind of the performance management in terms of the culture. That's why different countries sometimes they have a different setting or setup for the performance management because of the culture elements. Okay. So these are the objectives we're going to learn from this chapter. As I mentioned previously, we have 5 objectives. If you look at from here, we address, okay, number 1, multinational performance management at the global and local level, such as for non-comparable data. Okay, this is not based on the data. And then the next one is effect of distance, okay, in terms of the distance of the country, and then volatility of the global environment. And the last one is level of subsidiary maturity. Okay, based on the seniority, okay, based on the junior, something like that. So they have a different setup in terms of the performance management, as we know. Okay. And then for the second one, performance management as part of M&E's control system. So this is how we can control our staff in terms of the certain setup. Okay, for example, myself as a lecturer, we have our own KPI. we have our own performance management. As the administration staff, they have their own performance management. Okay, for the finance staff, they have their own performance management. So this is how we can control for the organization and to achieve our goals and objectives. And then the third one is factors associated with expatriate performance, including compensation package. So in terms of the compensation package, sometimes they can give motivation. Okay, they can give something like the energy to the staff to get to achieve the performance management based on the compensation package. When we talk about compensation package, it's about salary, in terms of the allowance, okay, in terms of a certain benefit, something like that. This is under compensation package. Okay, so if you raise or if you got a lot of means a high salary or basic salary, something like that, so of course you can perform because you have the motivation to perform well in terms of that KPI or key performance index or performance management. Okay, next, task and role. This is in terms of the task. As I mentioned previously, for the CEO, they have their own task and role. For the other staff, they have their own task and role. So later on, we look at what are the tasks and roles for each task or job description and so on. Yeah, and then headquarters support. Okay, this is another element, another factors. They can give something like a boost, okay, to make sure the staff can perform or not based on the headquarters support. And then the host environment factors. So this is based on the subsidiary country or subsidiary company, how they about their environment. Sometimes we as expatriate, we become a culture shock because we don't know anything about their culture. So from this factor, we can't perform well. If let's say we have a good and how to handle in terms of the culture shock, for example, in terms of the environment factors and so on for the host country, sometimes we can perform after that. Okay, so this is another factors. And then objective number 4 about the performance management of expatriate and non-expatriate, and then those on non-standard stars and assignments such as commuters and virtual workers. Okay, commuters mean you just go for 6 months and then after that you can go another country, another 6 months or 2 months, something like that, as we learned last topic in chapter 5 here about the commuters. And then virtual workers, by using the website or internet or this kind of the platform, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, and other virtual workers. Okay, so how we can set up their performance management, especially like us, we do working from home. So how the manager or subordinate can what we call it checking or can give a performance management based on what we are perform for our tasks and so on. Okay, based on the virtual workers. And then the last one, objective is number 5, issues related to performance appraisal of international employees. So what are the issues? Later on, we try to look at in terms of in this chapter for chapter 6. So are you ready for this one, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Amira, and thank you, Anika. How about the rest? So far, we have 26, 28, 31 students.
Yes, sir.
Ready, yeah? Okay, nice. Thank you for the sign. All right, so this is the introduction for this chapter. If you look at from here, based on this figure 6.1, so these are the introduction, perspective, issues, action, and consequences in M&E performance management. So in terms of the performance management, how we can set up this performance management based on these things. Okay, the first one in terms of the patterns of priorities, global or local emphasis. So how this pattern come from 2 factors. Number 1 is global corporate strategies, rules, process, and practices. So in terms of your objectives, mission, and vision of the organization, especially for the global mission and mission. So this is the first one. The second one is local strategies, rules, processes, and practices. So this one also can become a pattern of priorities, global or local emphasis. And after that, we move to the performance management processes for individual employee. Based on the individual, come from 2 factors also. Remote appraisal sources input, and then local appraisal sources inputs. Okay, so they have 2 factors here, and then from these 2 factors, remote appraisal sources or local appraisal sources, this one they become a performance management processes for individual employee. And after that, they have a certain critical issue, such as the criteria. Okay, a certain criteria. For example, implicit or explicit. Implicit from internal, explicit from external factors. And then person versus activities versus outcomes. Okay, different tasks, they have a different outcome. So that's why they can create another issue for setup for this kind of the performance management. And then for the purposes developmental, okay, sometimes if that staff not perform well, so how to develop the staff based on the training, we must give extra training to the staff. Okay, this is under HR. And then about the payment or pay related pay tasks or roles, and then in terms of the timing. So this one another issue. Okay, can give something like a good performance to the staff or not. Okay, if let's say you work after because based on the Malaysian law, okay, Malaysian law in terms of the salary, the last salary the management can give to the staff is on 7th, okay, 7th of the month, okay, that's the last month. But so far, luckily for the unit KL, 25th, okay, during 25th of during that month, the salary reimbursed for the staff. But in certain organization, the last payment based on our Malaysia law, okay, is 7 for each month. So more than that, the staff or the workers can sue the management, okay, the office and so on. Okay, that's in terms of the timing. So this one become another critical issues for the performance management of the staff. Yeah, and then the last one is in terms of the additional subsequent assessment purposes. They have two categories also, based on the individual outcomes, okay, about the training, as I mentioned. If that individual or they not perform well and so on, so we must give extra training to them to make sure after that they can develop something. And then career implication, financial consequences. Okay, when we talk about financial consequences in terms of the increment, salary increment. Okay, and then for the organizational outcomes, they have to control and then reputation and legal compliance. If let's say all staff perform well, of course the reputation of the staff of the organization was good. Okay, if let's say the performance management for the staff 50% not perform well, so of course the reputation of the organization become lower. So this is how the outcomes based on the performance management. That's why the performance management normally we must set up early of the year. Okay, early of the year. All right. So these are the figure 6.1, and then the next one is multinational performance management. Okay, if you look at from here, M&E performance management constraint. Okay, these are they have their own constraint. The first one is about whole versus part. Okay, for the whole one, especially if you're working with the M&E or global company, how about the performance management with the whole company? And then in terms of the part, okay, when we talk about part, maybe for the host country A, okay, they have their own performance management. From the host country B, they have their own performance management. They are not the same, use the same performance management. So this is called for the whole versus part, become a constraint. And then non-comparable data. Okay, this is about the data they can compare for the host country A, host country B, host country C, and other company or other organization in different country, for example. So they can't to compare. Okay, that's we call it non-comparable data. And then the third one is volatility in the global business environment. Okay, this is in terms of the volatility, in terms of the culture, in terms of the market, okay, in terms of the emerging market, for example. So they become another constraint for the performance management to set up the performance management. And then the fourth one is separation by time and distance. For example, US and Malaysia, okay, we have a different time and different distance, for example. So they have a constraint sometimes. So that's why if you're working with an international company in Malaysia, some of the organization for the international company, they open starting from 8 p.m. okay to 8 a.m. okay, because they must use the same time with their home country, for example US. That's why a lot of companies do like that for the insurance company, and then a certain company maybe what we call it, you must do meeting with them, okay, during their hours, their time and so on. So this is about the separation by time and distance, become another constraint, and that constraint to set up the performance management for the organization. Okay, and then the last one, number 5, is variable levels of maturity across market, the need for relevant comparative data. Okay, this is about the variable level, about the maturity across market. Maybe the company in what we call it in host country A more than 10 years, and then the company in the host country B just 5 years, and then company in host country C just 1 year. So the level of the maturity across culture, they have a different in terms of this one. So the need for relevant comparative data. So we can't set up the performance management same like others. Okay, we must look at in terms of the either they are junior or a senior. Okay, so far so good. Any question before I move to the next slide?
No, sir.
Okay, how about the rest? Guys?
Good, sir. Yes, sir.
Good, yeah? All right. So if good, we move to the slide number 9, a control and performance management. So as I mentioned, how to control in terms of the performance management in terms of this one, yeah? Figure 6.2, M&E control and performance. So formal and informal control activities. So how the setup of the performance management, either they are more to formal or informal, how to control this kind of the activities and performance management. And then focusing on standardization of practices, socialization, and compliance to norms and value. Okay, this is in terms of the culture. We must to comply about this one. When we talk about norms and value in terms of the company organization culture, okay, this is another element we must look at it. And then global mix of strategic outcomes and results. Okay, so based on this one, you can control. And then for the M&E HQ, okay, HQ or home country, and then the subsidiary for the host country. Okay, sometimes they have a different. Okay, for the home country, they use a different setup, and then for the subsidiary or host country, they have a different setup for the performance management. Okay, that's all come from formal and informal control activities, and either focusing based on the socialization or socialization for the practice, standardization of practice, or socialization for compliance. Which one? Okay. And then performance management of international employees. Okay, this is for the expatriate. How we can what we call it, look at either that staff or the expatriate perform or not based on these factors. Okay, figure 6.3, variables affecting expatriate performance. Okay, expatriate performance based on the compensation package. As I mentioned, in terms of the salary. Okay, if the salary is quite good for them based on their tasks and so on, so they of course they can perform. If let's say that salary or basic salary not good in terms of their tasks and so on, of course their expatriate staff become not really perform. Okay, wait, yeah. Okay, that's in terms of the compensation package. Based on the benefit also under the category of the compensation package. Okay, as we know, if you have a lot of motivation, of course we can perform well. Okay, all right. For the second variables or second affecting second part, they are affecting for the expatriate performance in terms of the task given, in terms of the job position or job description and so on. So if let's say the task is quite not relate with their what we call it, their requirement, their achievement, something like that, of course they not perform well. Okay, if let's say the task given is good and then how they know how to settle it, of course they can perform for that task. Okay, and then headquarters support, as I mentioned, in terms of the system, in terms of how the headquarters or home country support them. Okay, in terms of the training given and so on. So if they're good in terms of this one, of course they can perform well. If not good, of course they're not perform well. Okay, and then host country environment. So this is another variables. Okay, in terms of the environment of the host country, as I mentioned, different country they have a different culture. For the expatriate, sometimes they become a culture shock. Okay, if they can handle how to solve the culture shock, of course they can perform well. If let's say they can't handle in terms of the culture shock, of course they not perform well. This is another element for the host environment. And then The last one in terms of the cultural adjustment. So this is another variables, self and family. If let's say they bring together their family, their kids, their wife or husband, something like that. So how they can adjust in terms of the different culture. If they can adjust, good. They can solve this kind of the differentiate. Of course, they can perform well. If not, of course, they not perform. Okay, so these are the 5 variables affecting expatriate performance for the expatriate workers. All right, so far so good.
Good, sir.
So far so good, sir.
Good, yeah. All right, nice. Okay, next, expatriate tasks. Okay, so these are the tasks for the CEO, structure, reproducer, troubleshooter, and operative. They have a different task in terms of the performance management. Yeah, for the CEO or subsidiary manager, overseas and direct entire foreign operations. So depends on this one. The setup of the task for the performance management based on this category. Okay, even for the CEO, either the CEO only for headquarters or for the host country, or maybe both. Okay, so depends on the task. And the structure reproduces structure similar to what she or he knows from another part of the company. Okay, this is in terms of their capability, either they're capable or not. And then the third one is troubleshooter, analyzer, and solve particular operational problems. Okay, that's why in certain situation, you might just send your staff to the international assignments because to settle the problems. Okay, and then this you call it for the troubleshooter. So that's why they try to analyze first, and then they try to solve the problems happen to that situation or to that organization. Okay, this is we call it troubleshooter. So this is another task. Sometimes they become add-on tasks. Okay, and then for the fourth one is operative, perform functional job tasks in existing operational structure in generally lower level or supervisory position. Okay, this is for the lower level. If you still remember during in principle of management, they have 3 types of the workers, or what we call it tasks. Okay, for the top level, middle manager, and then lower level manager. So the lower level manager under the operative, they are more to operations. Okay. And then the next one, these are the percentage of the types of expatriate assignment. If you look at from here for the technical part, okay, normally for the expatriate assignments, just around 5 to 10% only. Okay, short-term knowledge transfer. This is for the expatriate assignments, yeah, for the technical part. And then for the developmental part, same like the technical part, 5% to 10% in country performance and acquisition of local understanding by assignee based on the based on the task. Okay, that's why they become just 5 to 10%. And then for the third one is strategy. Okay, they try to come up with the best strategy, the best what we call a solution, something like that. This is around 10 to 15%. High profile activities for developing global perspective. Okay, and then the rest, okay, they are very high percentage, functional 55% until 80%, okay, more enduring two-way transfer of existing process and practices. So these are the 4 types of the expatriate assignments based on the percentage, either they are technical, developmental, strategy, and functional. So normally total is 100%. Okay, so the highest one or the more tasks for the expatriate assignment under the functional, 55% until 80%. Okay, so far so good. Any questions so far?
No questions, sir.
No question. Okay, how about the rest?
No question, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for the feedback. Okay, next, we move to the figure 6.4, PCN or Parent Country National Role Conception. So in terms of this one role of conception for the PCN, if you look at from here, multinational role sender from the PCN, and then they communicates to the PCN manager, okay, role recipient, and then after the role recipient, they can go to the PCN manager role behavior. Okay, after that they communicate direct to the multinational role sender, or they can communicate to the host country stakeholders. Okay, this is for the role sender. So in terms of different country, as we know, they have the cultural boundary because different country. So this is how the role conception they communicate from the multinational role sender to the role recipient. Okay, and then from the role recipient to the role behavior, and then they can communicate to the role sender. Okay, from the host country stakeholders. All right. And then the next one we look at in terms of the figure 6.5 for the TCN or third country national or others country national role recipient. So for this one, if you look at from here, from the parent company or role sender, they communicate to this TCN manager, okay, role recipient. And then in terms of the TCN manager's role behavior, they can communicate to the host country stakeholder or role sender. And then from the role sender for the host country stakeholder, they can communicate to the TCN manager role recipient. And then for the TCN manager's role behavior, they can directly to communicate to the parent company or role sender. And then as we know, different country, they have a different cultural boundaries. Okay, so this is how the role conception for the TCN. Okay guys, so far so good? Good, yeah? All right, thank you for the sign. The next one is non-expatriate performance management challenges. So this is the challenges for the non-expatriate performance. If you look at from here, we have 7 challenges. The first one is performance criteria and goals for non-standard work. And then the second one is criteria for performance is subject to cultural differences. And then the third one is isolating international dimension of job performance is not as straightforward as for traditional expatriate jobs. And then outstanding underperformance and failures will challenge performance appraisal process. Okay, this is about the outstanding. Outstanding, normally the mark is more than what we expected. And then performance appraisal are complicated by international contexts outside appraisals, and then way to improve and reward are unclear. Okay, this is about the reward. For example, if you have performed, you got increment 10%, for example. This is become unclear. That's why they become challenges. And then impact of non-standard work of HCN co-workers or host country national co-workers. Okay, because of different standards, sometimes they can create challenges. Okay, to for the non-expatriate performance management. All right. Next, performance appraisal of international employees. Okay, this is how we can give, okay, for the manager can give mark to the staff. If you look at from here, they have 7, yeah, they have 6, okay, 6 part of the performance appraisal aspect of international employees. Number 1 is performance criteria. So we must look at in terms of the criteria first, either they are hard workers or soft, and then contextual goals. We must to notice about this before we give the marks. And then who conducts the performance appraisal? As a manager from the host country or home country. Okay, typically subsidiary manager, but could be team of evaluator. This is we call it for the 360-degree. Depends. Okay, standardized or customized appraisal form. Okay, this means either we are standardized, either you are from home country or host country, we standardize or customize. Maybe home country like this, and then host country uses different appraisal form. This is you must to know about this one before you give a marks. And the frequency of appraisal. Okay, frequency, when we talk about frequency, is about either 6 months, after 6 months, or maybe 1 year. And normal company, they prefer to use after a year, after 1 year, and then yeah, give a mark for appraisal. For UniKL, so far, yes, after a year. Okay, and then for the next one is performance feedback. Okay, this is for the feedback from the co-workers to the manager after they have received the marks and so on. So the communication medium matters. Either they use the online or maybe use the system or maybe face-to-face. Okay, this is about the performance feedback. Okay, for the UniKL so far we use the system. If let's say our manager gave marks not based on what we are done for the task, okay, we can communicate, we can argue. Okay, this we call it performance feedback. And then the last one is appraisal of HCN or host country national employees. Okay, for the HCN, either the manager in HCN do a performance appraisal or maybe from HQ. So you must decide. Okay, this is we call it for the performer appraisal aspect of the international employees. So later on, if you work with the global company, either MNE or MNC company, so you may notice about this one in terms of how they can give a marks, okay, for performance appraisal and so on. All right, and the final slide for this chapter, figure 6.6, HCN role conception. Okay, this is in terms of the role conception. If you look at from here, parent company role sender, they can directly communicate role conception to the HCN manager, role recipient, and then from the HCN manager role recipient, they can communicate to the HCN manager role behavior, and then at the same time, they can communicate to the host country stakeholder or role sender. And after that, host country stakeholders, they can communicate to the host country manager, role recipient, and then directly can communicate to the parent company or home country, what we call it, headquarters for this organization. Okay, and then at the same time, different country, they have a different cultural boundary. Okay, this is how the HCN rule conception happen. Okay, so far, any question before we have a 15-minute break?
So far, no questions, sir.
No question from Muhammad. How about the rest?
No, sir.
Okay. No question also from Amira. The rest?
No, sir.
No questions, sir.
No questions, sir.
All right. Thank you for the feedback. So we have 15 minutes break. So we meet again around 1:11. Am I right? Yeah, 1:12. Okay. 1:12. We continue for the next chapter, chapter 7. Thank you very much. Okay, hi guys. Hello.
Hi, sir.
Okay, you're still with me.
Hi, sir.
Thank you for the feedback. Okay, we continue for the next chapter for today, chapter 7. So if you look at from this chapter title, it's about international training, development, and careers. Okay, so in this chapter, we're going to learn about all this one together, vocabulary, okay, objectives, introduction, components of effective pre-departure training. Okay, this is before we send the staff to the international level, and the effectiveness of pre-departure training, and the developing staff through international assignments, trends in international training and development, re-entry and career issues, repatriation process, individual reaction to re-entry, responses by the MNE, designing a repatriation program. So these are all the topics, okay, subtopic we're going to learn from this chapter for chapter 7. Okay, we start with the vocabulary, TND, training and development, the human resource NGOs or non-government organizations, internal hires, and then cultural, internal from the internal or from the inside of the organization. Yeah? Cultural awareness training or CCT, cross-cultural training, field experiences, degree of expected interaction, cultural similarity. So this is under the cultural. So before we send the staff for the international level, especially with the different culture, we must to give the training, and especially for the cultural training. Yeah, and then information giving, effective and immersion approaches, security briefing, role playing, preliminary visit, international cadre. Okay, if you still remember, you learn in principle of management about the cadre, the specific group or professional group for the international level, okay, for to do the international assignments. That's called it for the cadre. Yeah, and then multinational virtual teams, repatriation, ROI or return on investment, reverse culture shock. Okay, this is for example, the staff, they go to the international level and they come back and then they go back to another country. That's we call it for the reverse culture shock. Yeah, and then mentors, repatriation program, career anxiety, work adjustment, and family adjustment, social networks, boundaryless carriers, protein carriers, international itinerants. And then we also have the additional types of training. We also have the language training, critical incident training, cultural assimilated training, stress reduction training, simulations training, and also sensitivity training. So this is under the culture. Actually, we're talking about sensitivity. Yeah. Okay. So the objectives from this chapter, for your information, we have two types of the objective: before and during, and then the second one is post assignments objectives. So for the objectives for before and during, we examine these pre and on assignment issues. We have 7 objectives. Number 1, the role of training to support expatriate judgment and on assignment performance. The second one is components of pre-departure training programs such as cultural awareness, preliminary visit, and language skills. And then the third one is relocation assistance and training for trainings. Number 4 is effectiveness of pre-departure training. Then number 5, the developmental aspect of international assignments. And then number 6, training and developing international management teams. And then number 7, trends in international training and development. So these all the objectives before and during assignments or international assignments for the expatriate. Okay, and then the next objective is for post assignment. So after they do the international assignments, we examine this re-entry issue. Okay, process of re-entry of repatriation. The second one is job related issues. The third one is social factors such as the family that affect re-entry and work adjustment. And then the fourth one is MNE responses to repatriate concerns. Number 5 is staff availability and career issues. Number 6, ROI or return on investment and knowledge transfer. So to do the international assignment, we need to have this one, knowledge transfer. They come back and then they can share the knowledge what they have done, learn from that organization. And then the number 7, designing an repatriation program. And then number 8, broader international career issue. So these are the 8 post assignment objectives, okay, for this chapter. Okay, so are you ready to learn all these objectives for before and during and post assignment objectives? Ready?
Ready, sir.
Okay, ready.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, introduction. So international assignment as a training and development tool. Okay, expatriate are trainer. Okay, why expatriate become a trainer? Because part of knowledge and competence transfer. When we talk about expatriate or become a cadre, you must have a certain capability or experience, or maybe you have a certain knowledge. Okay, you can go to the international level. Okay, that's why you may become a trainer. Okay, part of knowledge and competence transfer. And then the second one is expected to help train and develop HCN. For example, the host country national don't have the what we call it, the expertise in terms of certain things, so the expatriate can do and become a trainer to train them, okay, to make sure they can understand about that specific things, problems and so on. Yeah, and then the second one is expatriate ensure adoption. Okay, adoption means you try to adopt, okay, the knowledge, the environment, the how to do the international decision making, something like that. That's why they become a ensure adoption. Yeah, show how system and process work. Okay, especially if you are from the home country or parent country, of course you know how to do or how to use the system, and then you can go to the host country and then you can tell them and teach them how to use the system and how to process about the process work and so on, because you are familiar about the processes of work. And then monitor HCN performance. Okay, monitor for the HCN performance. This is go back to the previous chapter about the performance management, how they can control based on this one, yeah, based on the expatriate. And then the third one is expatriate management under development. Okay, in terms of the job rotation, become a broader perspective, and then they become global operators. Okay, so that's why the expatriate are management under development. Okay, that's why for the international cadre, these are the special group, okay, international group, okay, to do the international assignments. Not a normal person can become a international cadre. Okay, you must have a specialist. Okay, you must have the knowledge. Again, you must have something like certain things the company needed for to do the international assignments. Okay. Next figure 7.1, international training and development. So how the international training and development happen? So if you look at from here, starting from the recruitment and selection, so the HR must recruit the best staff, okay, and then select the best staff and then give them to the training. That's why for the international cadre, they have a specific training for them. And then if they are performed, they can go to for the development for the next level. If you're not performed, they have a pre-departure training. Okay, they have another or extra training to make sure they can what we call it ready for the next international assignments. And then for the pre-departure training, they can go for the international assignments, or maybe after development they can go for to do the international assignments. Okay, and then after development they have the international team or international cadre. Okay, and all this one become a international cadre, or either the recruitment and selection to select the best staff, or maybe the seniority or the senior staff, for example, they can become a direct to international team. If you are still new in the organization, so of course you must the HR must train first, and then they can become a international team or international cadre. Okay, so far so good, guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, nice. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have the table 7.1, availability of cross-cultural training in MNE. So if you look at from here, this is for the cross-cultural training available, okay, during this actually is absolute data during 2002 and 2004, but it's okay, we try to look at in terms of the trend for the cross-cultural training available for the organization in the US especially. CCT for CCT available, they have 64%, okay, quite high percentage for the during 2002, and then 2004 just -2, okay, just -2%, become 62%, and then CCT attendance optional provided to 76% during 2002, and then 2004 74, -2. And then in terms of the optional, they have the employee only, just 2% for during 2002, but 2004 they increased another 3%, become 5%. And for the employee and spouse, okay, 29% during 2002, and then during 2004 just -2% or decrease 2%, become to 27%. And then whole family, okay, during 2002 33%, and then during 2004 around 28%. And then non to do this kind of the CCT or cross-culture training during 2002 36%, and then during 2004 40%. Okay, so these are, if you look at from here, the CCT is quite very important if you want to send the staff for the international level to do the international assignments. Okay. Next, components of effective pre-departure training. So if you look at from here, the essential components of pre-departure training, under the pre-departure training, we must provide, okay, especially for the HR, must provide this kind of the training. Cultural awareness training, okay, especially if that country not the same like our culture. Okay, to make sure we can know about the sensitivity, about the different culture, okay, about the do and don'ts and other things under the cultural awareness training. And then preliminary visit, okay, this is just for maybe 1 week, just go to that place and then you try to learn about their culture, or maybe 1 month and then you come back. And then from that you can have something like what we call it experience about their culture. Okay, that's we call it for the preliminary visit. And then language instruction. Okay, this is for the language training, especially for that country not using the English. Okay, so for example, China, France, Japan, okay, they are preferred to use their language. Okay, Korea, okay, something like that. So if you can speak their language, much better. Okay, and then assistant with practical day-to-day matters. Okay, this is how to help you to do the what we call it the task and so on, to make sure you can learn something from the this is we call it for the either word for mentor and mentee. For example, they can assist you to do this kind of the task and so on. Okay, and the last one, the essential components of pre-departure training for the security briefing. Okay, this is especially for that country, they have a terrorist cases or terrorist issue, something like that, or certain security issue. So you must give a security briefing about do and don'ts for that country. Okay, this is under HR. All right, any questions so far?
No, sir.
No question. Okay, all right, good. Thank you so much for the feedback. So we move to the next slide, slide number 12, Black and Mental Health, 3 keys for cross-culture training. Okay, when we talk about cross-culture training or CCT, okay, they must have this kind of the keys. Okay, training methods, what kind of the method we must give to during the training, and then level of training rigor, and then duration of training relative. Okay, so we talk about duration, they have expected degree of interaction, and then cultural novelty, how different host culture is from native culture. Okay, so in terms of the duration, if you look at from here, the first one is low interaction, similar culture. For example, Malaysia, Indonesia, for example, we have a quite similar culture. So for this case, just training just below than 1 week training enough. Okay, so emphasize information giving approach, area or cultural briefing, and then lecture, movies or books. Okay, movies, maybe we can open the YouTube, from YouTube video, something like a do and don'ts, their culture and so on, and then reading the books, okay, notes or something like that, and the interpreter, and then survival level language training. Okay, this is about the language, because in Indonesia sometimes they are preferred to use Jawa, okay, Jawa language. Okay, if you can speak Javis. Is it Javis, guys? Jawa language.
Bukan Javanese ke?
Javanese, yes. Thank you, Amira. Javanese language. Okay, so you can survival with them. Thank you, Amira. Yeah. Okay, this is about the training, just a simple one. Okay, and then for the country, what we call it, they have something like more effective approach. Okay, so 2 to 12. Okay, 2 months to 12 or 1 year job, some interaction. So more training rigor around 1 to 4 class weeks long. Okay, maybe a maximum 1 month. Okay, enough for that training. Emphasize effective approach such as for the role playing, critical incidents, culture assimilated training, case studies, stress reduction training, and then moderate language training. Because we need to have a stress reduction training, sometimes become a culture shock because different cultures. So how to reduce the stress? Okay, you must give a training to them. Okay, from that they can settle or they can solve if anything happen after during the international assignments. Okay, and then the third one, this is high interaction. Okay, novel culture. Okay, more training will go 2+ months long. Okay, maybe 2 months or maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months. Okay, depends. Some of the organizations maybe 6 months. Okay, for the training before they send the staff to do the international assignments. So emphasize immersion approach, assessment center, field experiences, simulation, sensitivity training, okay, and then intercultural web-based workshop, and an extensive language training, okay, especially for that country not using the English as for the first or second language for that country. Okay, that's become the extensive. That's why they become at least 2 months. Okay, because to learn the language is not easy, especially Arabic, because Arabic is the hard language we learn. Okay, that's about the language. All right. Okay, next, that's about the timing of the training we must to provide for our staff under DHR. And then the next one, effective of pre-departure training. So how to make sure they become the effective? Okay, so make sure that all this one is about the from table 7.2, perceived value of cross-cultural preparation of expatriate. Okay, value rating of great value, of high value, of medium value, and of little value. So if you look at from here, during 2002 and 2004, of great value 35%, and then 2004 36%, so the increase 1%, and then of high value 45% during 2002, and in 2004 37%, so decrease around 8%, and then of medium value during 2002 70%, and then during 2004 21%, increase 4%, and of little value not available during 2002, but 2004 they have 6%. So this is our perceived value of cross-cultural preparation of expatriate. So if you get from here, for a high value is more high percentage during 2002, okay, which is 45%. Okay. The next one is developing staff through international assignments. Okay, we can develop a staff to do the international assignment because of this one. Outcomes of international assignments, management development, and then organizational development. For management development, individual get experience. They have the international experience. Advanced careers, MNEs get cut rate. Okay, international group, like international cut rate to do the international assignments of experience international operation. Okay, this is the outcomes for the individual. And then for the organizational development, MNE accumulates knowledge, abilities, they can sharing or transfer knowledge. And then MNE and individual get a global mindset, okay, especially if that staff can go different country. And then MNE gets direct control and socialization, which helps with knowledge transfer and helps transfer competence. Okay, they can compete with the other competitor by doing these international assignments. All right. So far, so good.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
All right. Thank you for the feedback. So next, network M&E can use international team as a mechanism for fostering innovation, organizational learning, and knowledge transfer. They got 3 things. And then a means of breaking down functional and national boundaries, enhancing information flows, and then a method for encouraging diverse decision-making, problem-solving, and strategy assessments, an opportunity for developing a global perspective, a technique for developing shared values, thus helping MNE with informal normative control through socialization. Okay, this is how the international assignments can do. Okay, become an international team or international cadre. The next one is figure 7.2, developing international teams through international assignments. So if you look at from this, what we call it paragraph, okay, individual development, okay, and then they do the international assignments. So either they move to become international teams or become an international cadre. They have two things, right? To have different things. For the international cadre, of course, they must attend the training and so on, and then they can keep the organizational development. And then for the international teams, okay, especially during the pandemic situation or during the pandemic just 2 years for Malaysia, okay, they use the virtual teams. So from here also they can organizational development, they can develop for the organization, okay, in terms of the knowledge, in terms of the sharing, okay, knowledge sharing and other things. They can do this kind of the developing for the organization. And then trends in international training and development. So if you look at from here, they have 5 trends. Okay, some training and development trends. If you look at from here, host country continues to pressure for local T&D. Okay, host country sometimes they need this kind of certain criteria, so they can give a pressure for a home country to do a training and development. And then growing realization that competence learning depends on national context and HC institution, and then increasing awareness of NGO importance. Okay, NGO is very important for each company, each country, and an increasing interest in T&D or training and development focus on China. Okay, as we know, China leading in the market right now. And then T&D or training development literature is realizing needs to address in terms of the global part, comparative, and national context for T&D, just as Ihrm is starting to do. Okay, these are the trends. Okay, the training and development must look at it before they come up with the training, the best training for the staff. Okay. Next, re-entry and career issues. Okay, re-entry means you just after 5 years you go to that country to do the international summit and then you come back. Okay, you come back and sometimes you have a career issue because your position in that organization, of course, other person plays that position. So that's why they become a career issue sometimes. Okay, so how to handle this one? The organization must look at in terms of this one, figure 7.3. Okay, expatriation includes repatriation. So during the pre-departure, sponsored assigned, communication protocols established, webs and media contacts for contacts, and then pre-departure training and orientation. Okay, they have host focus and then home focus. Okay, and then go to the culture shock because they do the international assignment because of different culture, and then during the assignment, home leave, work-related information exchange because they have a different environment, and then ongoing communication with sponsor, and a systematic pre-written orientation. Okay, they become a culture shock. And then after that, after they do after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years maximum, and then they become upon written, they become a culture shock back because they want to return and then with the different culture. So that's why they become the culture shock back. Okay, upon return, new assignments, organizational reconnection, assistance with non-work factors, ritual or ceremonies to share experience. Okay, especially for their staff, especially for the staff from the home country. Okay, and then New Balance integrated global perspective. They must look at in terms of this kind of the perspective. All right. So the next one, figure 7.4, repatriation activities and practices. So if you look at from here, recruitment and selection, we recruit and select the best candidate, and then pre-departure training, we give the training to them before they go to do the international assignments, and then on assignments, during the assignments, and re-entry or reassignment. So they come back and then either they go back to the same country or different country. So this is, we call it for the repatriation activities and practices. Okay, it's just only for the international cadre, not everybody. Okay, all right, so far so good. Any question?
No, sir.
Question, yeah. All right, thank you for the feedback. So next, repatriation process. So based on the 2011, okay, 2011 study, causes for international assignment failure. Okay, the failure because of the spouse partner dissatisfaction. So this is the higher percentage, 80%, especially for the short-term assignments. Okay, because they can bring together their spouse and then their kids together. That's why spouse or partner dissatisfaction, 80%. And then poor candidate choice. Sometimes the HR choose not the right person, okay, to do the international assignments. So 16%. And then poor job performance, okay, sometimes they really perform for the home country, but to do the international assignments because of the culture shock and other environment and so on, so they not perform well. Okay, so this the cases around 13%. And an inability to adapt, okay, sometimes they can't adapt with the different culture. This case around 12%. And then other family concern, maybe in terms of the health concern, okay, maybe in terms of the uh, homesick and other things, okay. This case around 8%, okay. All right, next, effectiveness of ways to reduce expatriate turnover. Okay, how to reduce the expatriate turnover. When you talk about expatriate turnover, is after they come back, they don't want to go back to their home country because they believe they can work, can achieve more than that if they work in that country. So how to reduce the expatriate turnover based on this one, in most to least effective order, opportunity to use experience, okay, because we need their experience, 35%. Position choices open written, okay, maybe the previous one just manager and then after they come back become a senior manager, for example. Okay, this is around 22%. Recognition, okay, they have something like maybe ceremony recognition to them, to that staff, okay, to do the, because they are humble to leave their country for 5 years to do the international assignments, okay, this is around 16%. And the repatriation career support, okay, this is about the career support, the career development, 13%. Improve performance evaluation, okay, how to improve their performance because in terms of their experience and so on, 9%. Okay, this is about the effectiveness of way to reduce expatriate turnover. And then the next one, individual reaction to re-entry. Okay, this is about the re-entry. So if you look at from figure 7.5, factors influencing repatriate adjustment, job-related factors in terms of the career anxiety, work adjustment, coping with new role demand, and loss of status and pay. So do we look at one by one for the career anxiety, loss of visibility and isolation, no post-assignment guarantee, and then workplace changes. Okay, they become the career anxiety. And then work adjustment, re-entry position, employment relationship, and then devaluing experience. Okay, this is job-related factors. And then for the social factors, family adjustment, social networks, effects on partner's career, and all this all together might be influences repatriate adjustment. Okay, this is the factors influencing repatriate adjustment, how they can adjust for the repatriate. Okay, next, responses by the M&E. Okay, if you look at from here, figure 7.6, linking repatriation process to outcomes. Okay, in terms of the outcome, repatriate experience. Okay, they have starting from the value placed on international experience and then management of repatriation process. And after that, okay, they go to the repatriation experience, staff availability and retention, employment relationship, organizational commitment, and knowledge sharing. So all these one together, they become a management of repatriation process, okay, and at the same time either they can go either one by one to the value placed on international experience. So this is about the linking repatriation process to outcome, okay, depends on the individual. All right, the next one is knowledge and skill acquired from international assignments. Okay, if you want to become, okay, you want to become one of the international assignments or international cadre for the organization, you must have this kind of the knowledge and skill. Number one, market specific knowledge, okay, in terms of the local system, political, social, economic, language, and custom. Okay, this is a must. And a personal skill in terms of the intercultural knowledge, self-confidence, flexibility, and tolerance. Okay, the next one is job-related management skill, communication or PR, public relation, project management, and problem solving. And then the next skill you must have network knowledge, okay, meeting diverse people, and then general management capacity, broader job responsibilities, exposure to other parts of the organization. Okay, if you have this one, all this together, of course, you might become one of the international cadre team. Okay, so far so good.
Yes,
Good,
sir.
sir.
Okay, nice.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. Okay, next, designing a repatriation program. So this is for the HR, how to design a repatriation program. Stable 7.4, topics covered by a repatriation program. You must put in inside the program of the repatriation, preparation, physical reduction, and relocation and transition information, what the MNE will help with. And then financial and tax assistance, including benefit and tax changes, loss of overseas allowance, and then re-entry position and career path assistance, reverse culture shock, including family disorientation, school systems, and children education and adaptation, especially for the long-term assignments. And then workplace changes such as corporate culture, structure, and decentralization, stress management, communication related training, and then establishing networking opportunities, and then help in forming new social contacts. Okay, this all the syllabus you must put in inside the repatriation program for the training. Okay, and the last one, the last slide for this chapter, for chapter 7, strategies for smooth re-entry. Okay, these are the tips to make sure re-entry becomes smooth. Pre-departure briefing on what to expect and upon return. Okay, this is about the briefing. And a multiple career planning session. This is for the expatriate. And then written repatriate agreement clarifying available assignment upon return. Okay, that's about the agreement. Agreement and other things very important. And then mentoring programs that continue after return. So after they return, they become a mentor. They can teach other in their organization. And then extended home visit to keep up with social, family, and organizational changes. Maybe 1 year, you extend 2 years. Okay, so they can learn more about the culture and so on. And then reorientation programs on changes in organization. Okay, especially if anything happen in terms of the policy of the organization and so on, you must do the reorientation. You must do the retraining. Okay, personalized financial and tax advice, providing an adjustment period upon return. Okay, and then visible and concrete expression of repatriation value to the firm. Okay, such as for the recognition and so on. Okay, so that's the strategies for smooth re-entry. So far, any question? Guys,
No, sir.
No,
no
sir.
question? Sure? Sure, no question?
No, sir.
Okay, if no question, are you ready for your attendance?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
1 minute to set up first. It's 19. Okay, we start with Abdul Hakim.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Afiq Hakim. Afiq Hakim bin Sahab. Last call for Afiq Hakim. He absent. Next, Aini Nurul Irina.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Amira Husna.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Anika Fit.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Okay, next, Ashraf.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Ailina Farahain.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Farah Izati.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Hanis Adlina.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Haruka Munesawa.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, next, Iman Aisyah.
Present.
Thank you. Next, Iman Shahira.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Karina Alia.
Here, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Nazif.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Afif Hakimi. Muhammad Afif Hakimi bin Muhammad Rifai. Last call for Muhammad Afif Hakimi. Absent. Next, Muhammad Azizi.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Haziq Zayani.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Muhammad Syamil Arif.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Nazatul Hafisha.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Nur Izzati. Nur Izzati binti Jasmizan. Last call for Nur Izzati. Absent. Next, Nur Atira.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Nur Fatina.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Nurul Fatin Arifah. Nurul Fatin Arifah Muhammad Hisham. Last call for Nurul Fatin Arifah. Absent. Next, Nurul Nabila.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Rodela Nushiba.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Roshni Lubiba.
Present, sir.
Thank you. Next, Saiful Khalik Adam.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Siti Nur Aisyah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Siti Nur Shuhaila.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Siti Rauda.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next, Said Muhammad Irfan Khalik.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Next, Olia Shamimi. Olia Shamimi. Okay. All right. Thank you, Olia. All right. Next one, Khairunisa. One Khairunisa binti Wan Sazali.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Next one, Nur Umairah. One Nur Umairah
Yes,
binti.
sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next, Zulaika. Zulaika Zulkifli.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And the last person, Zulaika Najiha.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 students absent for today. All right. So I think that's all for today, guys. Thank you very much for your time. And once again, I would like to wish you guys Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Maaf Zahir and Batin. Happy holiday, okay, especially for those who don't have class for starting from tomorrow until this weekend, okay. And then stay safe. Assalamualaikum and have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
welcome.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
most
Thank you,
welcome.
sir.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
most welcome.
Salam.
All right.
Sir,
Yeah.
saya yang Ashraf tu last class tu saya yang saya ada WhatsApp sir tu.
Kenapa? Kenapa Aslam?
Yang saya cakap saya ada tapi
Okay.
waktu
21 hari bulan ni. Siapa nama tadi?
Ashraf.
Ashraf bin Hanisham. Okay. Tahu dah.
Okay, thank you sir.
Alright. You're most welcome.